Greetings, fellow primates. I am Jim the Ape. I recently took a road trip up and down the East Coast to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And no, I didn't visit Animal Kingdom because I didn't want to end up in one of their exhibits. I mean, let's be honest, a talking ape is pretty rare and extremely marketable. Anyway, while I was down there, I saw quite a few billboards, especially in the South, promoting Christianity. Now, I want to clarify a few things before I talk about them. First and foremost, I don't want any of these billboards censored or taken down. I believe in freedom of expression even when I don't agree with what's being said. Secondly, I'm not counting churches because I'd be here all day, nor am I counting something called the Holy Land Experience in Orlando, which I'm pretty sure is a Christian theme park. And finally, I'm not sure about the one recurring billboard, so the final count may vary, but I'll get to my points in a minute. The first billboard I saw was for Z88.3, which I think is a Christian radio station because their slogan is "Safe for the Little Ears," and because the first billboard I saw for it read 20 Years of Faith, with the word faith in big, all capital letters. Then I saw a similar one with the word hope instead. And the rest were pretty much just generic billboards for it. So I'm not entirely sure, but I saw 7 billboards for it, 2 of which were back to back. So that's basically the margin for error on the final count if I'm wrong, and it's not, in fact, a Christian radio station. But my points will still stand regardless. Getting into the definite Christian billboards, I saw one that was apparently for a church called Grace Orlando, and it said, "God sees you, and he loves who he sees." Which, if you really think about it, does give off kind of a creepy Big Brother vibe. The next one was an ad for something called Actors, Models, and Talent for Christ, which I'm guessing is a Christian-themed talent agency for what I would probably call religious propaganda. However, I have no real issue with this billboard because it is at least offering a service and probably is also looking for people who want to join them if they are actors, models, or have some other marketable talent and also happen to be Christian. Next up was a back-to-back set, the first of which said, "Jesus, your only way to God." There are a few different responses I could have to this one, like, how do you know God even exists? Or, what is God's location such that there is only one form of transportation that can reach it? But I think the main thing that I want to say is that this sentiment is so ubiquitous in America, where Christianity is the majority religion, that I don't think anyone sees that billboard and is genuinely surprised by the information on it. But I'll get to why I think these billboards really exist towards the end. The other billboard, located directly after the previous one, was a Bible quote. It was John 3:3, and it said something to the effect of, "Jesus said, excepting that a man be born again, he will not enter the kingdom of heaven." This is a similar sentiment to the previous billboard, except if you take it literally, in which case it suggests that in order to go to heaven, one must first climb into a woman's vagina and then crawl back out. A feat which is pretty much impossible for anyone, regardless of their age or physical development. However, I actually know what they mean by it, and unfortunately, it's much less interesting and pretty much meaningless to anyone who isn't a born-again Christian. The next one was a lovely piece of morbid scare tactics that read, "After you die, you will meet God." And it even featured the design of a heart monitor flatlining. This is where I start to get angry. Using people's mortality and exploiting their fear of it just so you can motivate them to join your cult and believe the same things you believe is one of the most disgusting methods of persuasion I can think of. With the exception of threats of actual violence, I would say that the threats of imaginary violence for all eternity probably comes in at a very close second. It's a cheap scare tactic, and it makes you comparable to terrorists because you are literally trying to terrify people into agreeing with your ideology. Anyway, the last one I saw was one that simply said, Jesus saves. Not all that notable except for the oddly placed ellipsis. That brings the final count to 13 Christian billboards that I saw, or only 6 if Z88.3 is not a Christian radio station. And keep in mind that I may have missed some, because even though I wasn't the one driving, it was raining quite heavily both ways, and the length of the trip meant that I dozed off a few times. Now, for my points about these billboards, first of all, the reason for their existence, as I suspect, is to essentially sell you the religion of Christianity. For example, other things that were advertised by Billboard included Subway, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Denny's, various car dealerships, adult superstores, which some Christians would probably protest the very existence of, and something called divorce-only men. I don't know what the fuck that is, but it sounds like it's probably sexist against men or women. I can't really tell which.
Sexism against men doesn't exist.
Yes, it does, but that's way besides the point. What I'm trying to say is that billboards typically advertise a product or service that the people selling it want to get more paying customers to purchase. Essentially, the large billboard is supposed to grab your attention and make people passing it want to buy that product by putting it in the forefront of their minds. For example, if they're hungry and looking for a spot to grab lunch on the road, an ad for a fast food joint at the next exit just might do the trick. Much in the same way, I think religious billboards aim to increase attendance at a particular church nearby, or simply to get more people interested in the religion in general. Of course, the financial benefit is much less direct than with large chains that are owned by the same corporations worldwide, but the effect is similar. They're selling a product, and they want you to buy it. The only difference is that what they're offering is nothing more than a placebo effect. Also, the presence of these billboards makes another point about Christianity in America. Now, just consider the fact that I did not see a single atheist billboard, nor did I see a single billboard for Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, paganism, Wicca, or any other religion. I'm sure they exist somewhere, and I've at least seen pictures of a few atheist billboards on the internet, but never in person. And yet, Christians in America still insist that they're being persecuted, despite the fact that I got their religion shilled to me all up and down the East Coast. The fact is, their claims of persecution have nothing to do with them being a minority, because they're not. When you hear Christians bitching about persecution or religious liberty in America, what they're really complaining about is the inclusion, freedom, or equal rights of people with whom they disagree. They cry oppression during the holiday season when other religions celebrate different holidays, and therefore Christmas is not the only festivity on the collective mind of the public. They also bitch about not being able to push their beliefs into the public school system or to put their iconography on government property without also allowing that of other religions. And they complain about the definition of marriage as they see it and claim that they have a monopoly over it, despite the fact that marriage is a legal institution overseen by our secular government. And the fact that wedding ceremonies held in churches are just window dressing for the religious. The bottom line is that these billboards may not be a problem in and of themselves, but they do highlight many of the issues I have with religion, and, in particular, Christianity in America. The rhetoric and the tactics that they use are dogmatic and often fallacious. Their beliefs do not hold up under objective scrutiny and skepticism, and yet those beliefs are often treated as facts, to which any opposition or disagreement is labeled immoral and evil. Yet simultaneously, the people who hold these beliefs claim to be the ones who are being persecuted, in spite of the fact that the exact opposite is the case. To be fair, not all Christians are the same, and most of them are at least nonviolent. But so many of them fail to see the value in separating their religious beliefs from their political ones. So many of them attempt to turn our secular government into a theocracy. And they have no idea how terrible that would be.